If you're one of the lucky owners of Thrivecart Learn, and this is the platform where you host your courses, you might at some point in time decide, wouldn't it be a great idea to sell some of them through AppSumo? And as soon as you start setting up your listing through AppSumo, you realize that they're asking for codes. Now, the reason why AppSumo is asking for codes is because that's how they sell their stuff. Folks who make software and courses generate redemption codes, then they provide them to AppSumo, and AppSumo sells them so that Sumo links can redeem the codes for access to software or courses. So this means that you will have to generate these redemption codes manually. And what you will also know is that at this moment, Thrivecart does not have a feature that allows you to generate promotional codes in bulk. You have to generate them one by one by one. Now, how big of a problem it becomes, it really depends on how many of these you need to generate. If you're planning to sell 10 or 20 or even 30 courses, then generating up to 30 codes manually in Thrivecart is probably not a big deal. But what if you're planning for your course to really take off and you need to generate hundreds, maybe thousands of courses? Is there a way to avoid doing it one by one by one in Thrivecart? Turns out there is a way. And so in this tutorial, I will walk you step by step through a process that will allow you to sell a course that's hosted in Thrivecart Learn on AppSumo and generate thousands of codes in 2 minutes. Let's do it. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the system design of the user experience that we're going to build. Now, we're going to assume that once you sold your course on AppSumo, what you've actually sold to the user is a redemption code. Now they need to go to an address and redeem the code in exchange for the access to your course that you host in Thrivecart Learn. Now, that ingress point where they need to go to in order to start the process of redeeming their code is a web form, and the only input bar on that web form that the user is going to see is an email address. And the only purpose of this web form is to verify their email address, and if they enter their email address correctly, then to send them an email with the link to the second form where they can now redeem their code. So the user journey goes like this. The user enters the email into a web form, and if the email is correct, then the user will get an email with the link to another web form. And then the user navigates to this other web form and enters the redemption code. And then if the code is correct, then Thrivecart Learn will create a student and grant the course. Now, if, for example, they enter the email incorrectly, then the email with the link to another form will go to the incorrectly filled out email and nothing happens, so they will just have to enter the email correctly into the same form. If, on the other hand, they enter their code incorrectly, then they will get an email from you saying that something went wrong, they entered the code incorrectly, and they need to check it. So that's pretty much it. Let's start building. The first thing you need to do is create accounts with all the tools that we're going to be using for this integration. The first account that you need to create is with Tally Forms. Tally Forms is a cloud-based form provider we're going to be using to build out the user experience. The second account that you need to create is with Make, a tool that was formerly known as Integromat. Make is an automation platform similar to Integrately, Zapier, and others. We're going to be using Make to run the automation that enables the user experience. You will need a Google account because we're going to be using Google Sheets. Now, ideally, and to simplify things for you, you should get yourself a Google Workspace account. This is what we do in Easy Automations, and this is what I do in my other businesses. However, if you're not ready for a Google Workspace account, a free account is fine. Now, obviously, you need to have a Thrivecart account, and you need to have a Thrivecart Learn bolt-on, and you need to have access to Thrivecart's API. Now, in case you are still considering Thrivecart, I'm including the link to them in the description of this video. And I'm also including links to all of these software tools that we're going to be using. So if you need to open these accounts, why don't you pause the recording now and then come back to it when these accounts are ready. All right, so the first step is for us to create the two web forms. The first web form is called the email verifier, and the second one is called the code acceptor. Now, I have included the templates for both forms in the description to this video. Now, once you click on the links to these templates, you will come to a window like this that says use this template. So as you can see, this is the email verifier form, and this is the code acceptor form, which is called Let's Get You In. So go ahead and click on Use this template, and then also go ahead and click Use this template. So what this does is it imports both forms into your Tally account, assuming, of course, that you have signed in. So let's go to the dashboard and verify this. So you can see I have two forms here in the draft format. So let's publish these forms because we don't need to edit these forms at all. The next thing that we need to do is to create the codes in bulk. So this tool, Voucherify, to which I'm including the link in the description of this video, allows you to create thousands of codes in bulk for free. So all you need to do here is to enter the number of codes. So let's say 5,000, and the single code length. I'm going to say 8 characters. Click Generate. Once the tool generates the codes, you can download them in Excel. The next thing you need to do is you need to provide these codes that you have generated to AppSumo. The way to do it is first to convert the Excel file that you have downloaded from Voucherify into a plain text CSV, and then upload this plain text CSV here in the AppSumo Upload Your Codes section when you're generating your listing. Now make sure that when you ask Excel to convert the codes into CSV, you select the plain version. Otherwise, it will not work. The next thing to do is to create a sheet in Google Sheets. The one that looks like this. So you need 4 columns, and every column needs to have a header. The first one is code, the second one is status, then date, then redeemer. In the first column, you will paste all the codes that you have generated with Voucherify, even if it's 5,000. Now I've generated just 10 for the purposes of this test, and I'm just going to plonk them here. In status, there's nothing for you to add here. Our automation will record the status of the code once it gets redeemed. The date is where our automation will record the date of the redemption, and the redeemer is for the email address of the user who redeemed the code. Now, it doesn't really matter where exactly you create this sheet, but I would suggest for you to create a folder so that you can easily locate this sheet in the future. Now it's time to build automations. However, the first thing that you need to do before you can start building automations is generate an API code in Thrivecart. In order to do this, you need to log into your Thrivecart account like this. You need to go to Settings, then you need to go to API and Webhooks, and then to API Keys. And here, you need to create an API key. Give it a name, and then copy this API key and paste it somewhere safe, where you're not going to lose it and no one else will have access to it. Now, if this is the first time that you're creating a Make account, there will be a few new user onboarding flows that they will take you through. Feel free to ignore all of them. And your job is to get to this screen that says All Scenarios. This is where we're going to be building our automations. So here we will need to build 2 scenarios. The first one is called Email Verifier, and the second one is called Course Fulfiller. So let's build the Email Verifier scenario first. Click the Create New Scenario button, and rather than building the scenario yourself, use one of the files that I've provided in the description to this video and open the blueprint that's called Email Verifier. Use the More button to do it. Click More and then Import Blueprint. Your scenario should look like this. Now let's customize the Tally module first. Click on the Tally module, click Add, and establish the connection with your form in your Tally account. So just follow what I'm doing here. My first Tally form. Click Accept, and here you need to select the form that you're going to be working with. In this case, you need to select the first form, which is Let's Verify Your Email First. Click Save, and this will connect the Make trigger with the responses that users will be adding to your first form, which is their email address for verification. The second step is to customize the email module. In the email module, you need to add a connection type, which is Google restricted. Now, as soon as you click Save, Make will take you to an authorization screen. And if you have a Google Workspace account, all you need to do is authorize Make to access your Google Workspace account the way that you would do this normally with tools like this. There will be an authorization screen, and you just need to click one button that says authorize. However, if you have a free Google account, the procedure is a little bit different. I'm including the link to a YouTube video that Make produced themselves that explains how to create a connection with a free Gmail account. If that is your case, go ahead and pause this video, then watch the video from Make that explains how to connect your free Gmail account to Make, and then come back to this video. Now, if you have a Google Workspace account, all you need to do is click Save and click Authorize, and you will connect your Google Workspace account, Gmail, to Make. Now scroll down to the content of the email. As you can see, this is HTML. If you're not confident with HTML, there are many different ways online where you can use rich text and then convert it to HTML. I'm including a link to the tool that I personally use into the description to this video. In this content, there are two placeholders. The first one is called Replace Me. The second one is called Your Name. This placeholder, Replace Me, needs to be replaced with the URL for the second form in Tally. So go into your Tally account, go to Dashboard, and go into the form that's called Let's Get You In. So now that we've copied this URL, let's get back into the Make workflow. Let's locate the placeholder that's called Replace Me, and let us indeed replace that placeholder with the URL of this form. Now, what you will see here is that this will create a URL with a parameter, and the parameter here is !email equals, and then here we're mapping the email that the user has submitted. And what that means is that essentially if the user submitted the correct email address, then in the email that they will receive, the link to the second form will be with their email address already pre-filled. So that is how the email effectively gets verified. Now, if you will see that there is another placeholder here, and it's called Your Name. So I would suggest that you replace it with Your Name. Okay, so this scenario is done. All you need to do is make sure that there's a name here. So call it Email Verifier. Makes it easier for you to identify it later on. Save everything and switch on scheduling. Now let's create the second automation. So go back to the list of your scenarios. So click on Create a New Scenario. And as you've done with the first scenario, let's import the blueprint that we've pre-built for you. So click More and Import Blueprint and select the file that's called Course Fulfiller. Your scenario should look like this. So let's start customizing it. So let's look into the Tally module first. So this Tally module needs to be connected to your second form, the one that's called Let's Get You In. So let's do it right now. Let's call it Let's Get You In form. And the form here will be Let's Get You In. Okay, great. Now let's go into the Google Sheets module. Now here you need to connect it with the same account that you've created that Google Sheets sheet with. Let's go ahead and do that. Now here the Make Google Sheets module will ask you to locate that sheet that you created previously. Once you've done it, let's inspect that everything is exactly as this is. So code A is mapping to your redemption code from the Tally module, and there's nothing for you to change. In the HTTP module, you need to make a few replacements. Let's open it. The first thing that you need to do is you need to add your API key after the bearer word here in the headers item 1 value. So copy that API key that you've created previously into the clipboard, then place the cursor here, insert one space, and then paste that API key into the bearer field. The second customization that you need to do is you need to change the course ID. Now the course ID in this case is the course ID that Thrivecart Learn assigns to all courses that you have in the system. In order to locate your course ID, you need to go into the Thrivecart Learn. Let me show you how. Once you manage to get to Thrive dashboard, go into Thrivecart Learn, and then go into the course that you want to sell by clicking Edit. If you look at the URL here, you will see that there's a number that's called 39616 just after /edit/. That number is the course ID. So copy it into your clipboard, then you can close Thrivecart as we don't need it anymore, and then paste it here into the value setting. And that's it with the HTTP module. Now let's customize the email module. So in the email module, you need to select the Gmail connection that you have created when you were setting up the first workflow. And then as you can see, there are two placeholders here that you need to replace with something. So the first one is replace me. Now, this replace me placeholder needs to be replaced with exactly the same URL that you replaced the same placeholder in the first scenario. And that is the URL of the second form that's called Let's Get You In. And then the your name placeholder needs to be hopefully replaced with your name. And that's it. There's nothing to do with the email module anymore. And now the last one is the Google Sheets module. So in this module, you will need to locate the same sheet that you have located using this Google Sheets module. So let's do it now. Now you can see some gibberish here. That's absolutely fine. You can always change it to the path where you have created your sheet. So as you see, I have just changed this path to where I'm storing the database with the codes. Now let's scroll down and see if everything else is in order. Everything else is in order, and that's it. There's nothing else for us to do. As you can see, this module will locate the code that the user has provided, and if the code is located, it will fulfill the course with Thrivecart and then mark this code as redeemed while adding the user's email address into the field redeemer. Finally, let's save this scenario and let's switch it on. So now you have both scenarios working. We can test if they're actually working as intended. In order to do that, all you need to do is go to the first form, enter your email address. So now all we need to do is test both scenarios. Okay, so this is the first form. Let's verify your email first. Let me enter my email here and see if it's going to work. So I've entered my email and I'm going to press submit. And now I'm waiting for the email from Make with the link to the second form. Let's check our email. Well, as you can see, we've just received the email with the link to the second form. So let's click on this link. So this link took us to the second form. Let's Get You In. And as you can see, there's only one input field here that's called your redemption code. So this is where the user would paste their code. There is nothing here that says email. But despite that, there's actually a hidden field in this form for email. And when the user clicked on the link from the email that Make sent them, that field, email, was automatically pre-filled with their email address. So let's copy one of the codes that you have created and paste it into that Google Sheet and paste it here and then click submit. In order to see if the integration has actually worked, the first thing that you can do is go back to the Google Sheet and see if Make has marked this code as redeemed. And in this case, what you will see is this code would have marked as redeemed with today's date and the redeemer email, which I'm obfuscating for obvious reasons. The second thing that needs to happen is Thrivecart needs to send the user the login details for the course. So you should be getting an email like this. If you receive this email, it means that the integration worked well. Now, if you go back to Make into your course fulfiller scenario, you will notice that there is an error path here. And that is, if the user enters an incorrect code, we will send them an email advising that something is wrong. I suggest that you test this scenario as well. So take yourself to the second form and make a mistake when entering the code and see what happens. You should be getting an email from Make that tells you that something's wrong. Now, the last thing to do is to add the link to where users will redeem their codes into your AppSumo listing. So at some point in time in your AppSumo listing, you will come to this page where it says set up your codes. And it says, where will buyers go to redeem their codes? And it's asking for the URL. This URL needs to be the URL of the first form, the one that verifies the email. And that's it. That's all you need to do. So you guys are ready to sell your courses that you host in Thrivecart Learn through AppSumo. Good luck. And if you have any questions or you'd like to give me some feedback, please leave the comments underneath this video.